in the making. Now the time has come. The Phoenix Guard are ready to ignite the fires of war. Will they burn bright or will they sizzle and die? It's hammer time. Hey old worlders, Stefan here for Hammer Time and welcome to my epic finale of my 3-part series called Road to Bloodstorm. Now if you haven't watched the first one yet, check out the link here to follow along with the entire story. 4 weeks ago I challenged myself to bring my Phoenix Guard themed High Elf army and I want to take this army to Bloodstorm, Ratkin Revolt, a 1500 points tournament. But to spice this event up, the tournament's TO decided to just give everyone a giant for free. So yeah, that's right, even my High Elves, which normally can't do that, now have a big brother playing along on the battlefield, which is pretty sweet. And it's not just a gimmick either, the giants are integral to the event scenarios, so pretty cool. However, that does add some added pressure to the cooker, as not only did I have to finish my Phoenix Guard army, I now had to build a giant and paint him as well. And on top of that, I don't have a giant in my collection, or at least I didn't. I had to contact my friends over at Tabletop Kingdom to see if they could help me out and send me over a giant. But not just any giant. I mean, here, check this out. Wait a minute. Wait, is that? Hold on. No way. It's here! The giant has arrived. Massive thanks to TTK for coming through on the clutch and, oh wait. Hey, there's a note. Dear Stefan, we thought we'd make things interesting, so we sent you a mix of giant bits. Great. Good luck kit bashing your own blood giant. Of course they did. Because, painting an entire army isn't a challenge enough in 1 month. Now I have to kit bash a giant. No time to waste. I got 2 weeks in an army to finish and now a blood giant to build from scratch. This is either going to be epic or a complete failure. So fast forward to today, the deadline is here because tomorrow is Bloodstorm Ratkin Revolt. Did I manage to finish my army, including casually kit bashing and painting a giant in a week's time? Well, stay tuned for the result and an important lesson I learned about setting goals. By the way, if you like this beach theme basing that I did for my models, check out my painting tutorial here, so you can make them yourselves. So here we are, the evening before the event, and I'm out of hobbying time. So did I manage to finish everything? Well, to be frank, no. I took on a little bit more than I could chew here, to be honest with you all. I finished most of my models, the silver helms, the eagles, the phoenixes, and of course my giant Harg and Barg. But I didn't get around to painting all the helmets of my Phoenix Guard or doing all the water effects on the front ranks of my units, which I really wanted to do. I knew the helmets in particular were going to be a challenge, as they are, like most of my weapons in the army, painted in a non-metallic style, which is quite a time-consuming task. I mean, if you ever tried it, you know. I kind of knew that painting these was going to be, well, a bit of an unrealistic goal in 4 weeks on top of all the other things. But here's the important lesson. Does that mean that this challenge was a failure? Absolutely not. The reality is I painted and finished way more models than I normally would. A big victory in my eyes is the fact that I sat down every night and worked on the army. I stuck to the plan of methodically working through all the steps I planned out. And the end result, while not completely finished, is an army that still looks great. The takeaway is this. Even though you didn't complete the challenge, it's never a wasted time if you gave it your all. Take what you can, learn from the experience, and be proud of what you achieved. You'll find that next time, you'll be better for it. But now, without further ado, before I drive off in the early morning, here's the end result of my hard work and a full breakdown of my 1500 points High Elven list, the Guardians of the Flame. From the sacred shrines of Asuryan, the Phoenix Guard march forth to distant lands, bearing the eternal flame of divine enlightenment. This host unites the nobility of the High Elves with the majesty of beasts born of legend. At their head rides an anointed of Asuryan, enthroned upon a mighty Frostheart Phoenix. Around them the very air congeals with rime and ice, halting the steps of any who dare approach. From the White Tower strides the Lore Master, a peerless union of sage and warrior. With blade and spell in harmony, he lends wisdom and sorcery to the cause of Ulthuan. To either flank gallop the Silverhelms, proud sons and daughters of the noble houses. Their lances gleam like starlight, and with every charge they seek not only victory, but everlasting honor to thy lineage. A small company of archers marches in support, for even the most exalted host must pay heed to the minimum core requirements of the game. Yet it is the Phoenix Guard who are the true soul of this army. Cloaked in silence they march as one, solemn, unwavering, their halberds lifted in grim purpose. Above, the skies ignite as the Flamespire Phoenix descends, embodiment of rebirth and divine fire. Its wings cast torrents of flame, reducing the foes of the Aesir to ash and shadow. And trailing in its wake, two young phoenixes follow their sire and dam. A spectacle both wondrous and in truth disarmingly endurable. Thus march the Guardians of the Flame, for Asuryan, for Ulthuan, and for the eternal glory of the Aesir. But wait, what's that rumbling? It's Harg and Barg, the teetering twins stomping into action. Armed and ready for war, root snag included, watch out! There you have it, my army in full splendor. All that's left now is to get a good night's rest and embark on my epic journey on the morrow.
And so it did came to pass that Sir Stephan of the Hammer travelled from the mystic Isles of Ulthuan through a most arduous journey to the frozen wastes of Hoven's End. There to face trials most dire and utterly unreasonable, whispers spoke of endless hordes, unholy legions, and rivals with far too much eyeliner. Yet onwards he marched, armed with nothing but dice, questionable tactics, and an alarming sense in discovering ever more creative ways to lose.
Here we are for the first round, and we're facing our fungal foes, the Orcs and Goblins tribes. In this case, 0 Orcs, all the Goblins. Night Goblins, and that means phonetics. Yay. The scenario for this round is called First Encounter, or as I like to call it, Giant Showdown. You can see why in the deployment, as both giants have to be placed in the circle directly opposite to each other. A roll-off decides who gets to place their giant first. Loser doesn't get a say, the giant just goes directly on the opposite side. Now, besides whacking each other's armies on the noggin for victory points, each giant scores his master a whopping 125 victory points for each wound he inflicts on the other giant, plus a bonus of 250 points if he survives the game. That's a whopping 1,000 extra victory points up for grabs. So I'm not exaggerating when I say all the victory points, or most of them, for this round are in the hands of these giants. You will see why that can really dramatically swing the game in just a minute. But I'm never one to shrug off from a wacky challenge, so let's get right into the game. Game 1 against Night Goblins. Lots and lots of Night Goblins. The Night Goblins win the roll-off and get the first turn. Right off the bat, the giant spikes a 6 on the charge and immediately charges in. The rest of the Night Goblin army moves gingerly up the field, with the Mangless Squigs taking the lead. The Doomdiver shoots at the Frostheart Phoenix, but the shot deviates and kills one unlucky Silverhelm. In combat, the enemy giant thumps Harg and Barg with his club, causing 5 wounds. Harg and Barg then tries to do the same, but still reeling from the blow, he misses his attack. 2 stomps on Harg and Barg with only 1 wound from the enemy giant gives him 1 chance to save his hide, but he fails and is slain.
He does deal 1 wound back, but then falls to the ground. Not the best debut. Turn 1 for the High Elves, and the Noble on Frostheart Phoenix and Silver Helms retaliate, charging into the Giant. The Noble and Phoenix only deal 3 wounds to the Giant, and the Silver Helms fail to wound him at all. The Giant targets the Noble, jumping up and down, but fails to do any wounds. Stomps from the Phoenix kill the Giant, which in turn kills 2 Knights with his own. The rest of my army moves up, readying themselves for turn 2. In turn 2, the Night Goblins press on and charge one of their Mangless Squigs right into my Phoenix Guard, while the rest of them stay back, realizing that they have bows that they can prod me with. The Doomdiver tries his luck once more on the Frostheart Phoenix, but deviates and misses his mark entirely. In combat, the Mangless Squig kills 3 of the Phoenix Guard. In retaliation, the Loremaster steps up and deals 2 grievous wounds. Under the pressure, the Mangless Squig breaks, and the Phoenix Guard opt to restrain. In the second turn for the High Elves, my Noble decides it's time to charge the Warboss. However, in combat, both of them whiff, resulting in a draw. The Phoenix Guard, enchanted with the Loremaster's Glittering Robe spell, charge into the second Mangless Squig, killing it outright, and hoping to overrun into the fleeing one behind. However, rolling a double 1 on the overrun, they halt just a little further. Night Goblins turn 3, and the Shaman starts unleashing nasty spells upon my Phoenix Guard, lowering their toughness, weapon skill, and initiative by a lot. The impetuous Night Goblins charge to help their Warboss, but risk going through dangerous terrain. However, only 3 trip and die. The Doomdiver takes yet another shot, this time targeting the Flamespire Phoenix. It's a direct hit and immediately takes off 4 of the remaining wounds. However, now it's time to roll that sweet, sweet Rebirth 6 up. However, I roll a 1 instead, and the Flamespire shrieks and dies as he plummets to the ground. In the movement phase, both the rallied Mangless Squig and Squig Herd hop into combat with my Phoenix Guard. My Loremaster steps forward and slays the Mangless Squig before it gets to act. The Squig Herd kill 2 Phoenix Guard, and the Phoenix Guard kills 6 Squig Herd in return. The Night Goblins and Squigs decide they had enough, turn tail and flee. In the combat next to it, the fight between the Noble and the Warboss goes on. However, dice remain cold and they once again only deal 1 wound to each other. The Night Goblins, winning the combat with a lot of static combat resolution, force the Noble to take a break test on only a leadership of 3. Against the odds, the Noble manages to succeed and gives ground. The Night Goblins restrain? I wonder why. Turn 3 for the High Elves, and the dreaded moment I feared is here. The Fanatics are released, crashing through my Phoenix Guard. He rolls a whopping 12 hits and causes 8 of them to die. I can only say ouch. Fire Eagle finally charges the Doomdiver in the back, packing the crew to death. It's super effective, taking revenge for Mama Firebird. The Noble tries to finish off the Warboss on his Squig. However, the dice on both ends keep on failing and nothing happens. On the other end of the battlefield, the Silverhelms there decide it's time to act and run off a Squig Herd. Turn 4 for the Night Goblins, and they charge into my remaining Phoenix Guard. And in combat, the Phoenix Guard lose, and my Loremaster, who's left, breaks, running through the Fanatics, killing himself in the process. After this, there's so little left that we call it, but not before the Noble finally kills the Goblin Warlord for a Pyrrhic victory and a firm Night Goblins actual victory. Good game.
That's it for the first game of this tournament. It's a firm Night Goblins victory, and it illustrates once again why High Elves, we just don't do attrition wars, you guys. We just don't. We don't have the numbers, and those Fanatics, I mean, they really did a number on my Phoenix Guard. And speaking of not doing attrition wars, let's get right into game 2 against the Undead Vampire Counts. Here we are at round 2, we've dusted ourselves off, and now we face a new threat, the Vampire Counts. Much like the Night Goblins, this is a list we struggle against heavily for precisely the same reason. High Elves don't do attrition. The Vampire Counts, on the other hand, they might as well have invented it. I mean, avoid is going to be the name of the game. Let's not forget about this game's scenario. Like before, we get the usual points for murdering each other, the enemy's general, capturing banners, and all that jazz. But most importantly, what are the giants up to this game? During turns 3, 4, and 5, if Harg and Barg is not fleeing and in the opponent's deployment zone, at the start of my strategy phase, he'll earn me 165 points, and of course likewise for the opponent. So not as much as the whopping 1000 points from last game, but still a substantial amount. Let's get into the game. Both armies are deployed, and notably my giant on the far left flank to try and make a dash for the opponent's deployment zone. We roll off for first turn, I get a 5 and the opponent a 3, so it's turn 1 for the High Elves. In our first turn we move forward tentatively. There's no need to full send as we want to wait a turn or two before actually engaging the enemy. The Vampire Count's first turn, the undead move forwards. The Vargul fails his impetuosity test and charges the giant, gets killed instantly, allowing Harg and Barg to make a overrun move. In our second turn, we move the Phoenix Guard on the right flank up together with the Silver Elms, preparing for combat in a turn or two. In the center, both Phoenixes try to charge the giant, with only the Frost Phoenix managing to make it. 5 wounds are dealt to the giant, but it survives on 1 wound left. Harg and Barg runs up the board to start collecting points per the scenario. In the Vampire Count's second turn, the Strigoi Lord charges the Silver Helms, which flee, wanting none of that. The giant charges into the Flamespire Phoenix. A little risky with just 1 wound, but on the other hand, it's that or getting charged, so better to try and get that first hit in. The Blood Dragon Vampires charge my Noble. In combat, the Noble fights the Blood Dragon Champion, wins the combat, and the Knights give ground with no further crumble losses due to their high leadership and the battle standard standing nearby. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of the giant Phoenix combat, however they managed to epically kill each other with their stomps. And we maintain our strategy of biding time, as my army stays mostly back. Just the Frost Noble charges the Knights again, with a result 2 casualties and a fallback in good order. In the Vampire Count's third turn, the Bat Swarms charge into the Phoenix Guard, but it proves to be a folly, as only 1 base is left after the carnage. Regeneration on the bats, however, is surprisingly good, and made sure that not all of them died. The Grave Guard turn around to face the Silver Helms and the Phoenix Guard. Combat between the Blood Dragon Knights and the Frost Noble continues, however this time the Blood Dragons fare far less, as only 2 are left after combat. Turn 4 for the High Elves presents a great opportunity for the Noble on Frost Phoenix to defeat the Blood Dragons once and for all. However, his dice run cold, and the Knights survive once again, allowing the Necromancer to once more raise them from the dead. The Phoenix Guard opt out of a charge into the Grave Guard. In the center, real danger lurks as the Strigoi King is poised to charge into my Frost Phoenix Noble. The Grave Guard, tired of waiting, charge themselves into the Phoenix Guard. However, in combat, very few casualties are made on both sides, and the result is a draw. One final round between the Noble and the Blood Dragons. One final round of combat happens between the Blood Dragon and the Noble, as 4 casualties are inflicted on the Knights and the last one crumbles. Tired of the endless resurrections, the Noble then faces the Necromancer, ready to take the head of this unholy wizard. In turn 5 for the High Elves, combat between the Phoenix Guard and Grave Guard continues. Once again, there are very little casualties and another draw is concluded. Turn 5 for the Vampire Count sees the Strigoi King making a final charge into the 5 Silver Helms, eating them alive, thus concluding the game in a well-earned handshake. Good game. And way better than expected, despite thumping my prince's head against those Blood Vampire Knights again and again and again, which again showcases the frustrating power of their invocation of Nehek plus Scepter of Nyrot combo. How do you say that word anyway? Noiro? Noirot? Not... Poirot? Noirot? But you know what? A victory hard earned is a victory well earned. That puts us at 1 loss, 1 victory, and, can't complain about that. Don't go anywhere yet, because the next match will be a true Warhammer classic, the brotherly clash of High Elves versus Dark Elves. Here we are at the tournament finale, the last match against our darker kin, the Dark Elves. I absolutely adore this matchup. It's just a classic. I mean, cards on the table, if I hadn't started High Elves, I would have been playing Dark Elves, hands down. So what's Harg and Barg up to this round? Well, apparently he doesn't agree with the statue standing in the middle, and now he wants to tear it down. This statue starts the game with 20 HP, and at the start of the round, Harg and Barg, or the other giant, can deal 3 points of damage to it, granting 150 victory points every time he does. This puts up a total of 1,000 victory points for grabs. Once the statue is dealt 20 damage, it's removed, and the giants will probably wander off onto other giantly things like smashing things that aren't giants, probably. Turn 1 for the High Elves and Dark Elves. Now normally I do these turns separate, but here I did them together this time. Something with fatigue was kicking in and my focus was slipping a little. The armies marched towards each other, preparing for a clash of epic proportions. In the center, the giant advanced towards the statue, intent on kicking it down. The Flamespire Phoenix was shot at, taking some hits, but no wounds. In turn 2, another recap of the full battle round. On the right flank, the Silver Helms rode past the Hydra. The Hydra managed to eat one of my eagles, and in the center, infantry continued to march closer. The Beastmaster and Manticore flew towards the Frost Noble for a general versus general duel. Meanwhile, both giants smashed the statue to pieces for victory points. The Flamespire Phoenix and Frost Noble teamed up to wipe out the Dark Shards, after which the Noble turned to face the center of the battlefield. Turn 3 for the High Elves. The Silver Helms ignored the Hydra's bait and stayed behind it. The statue in the center was smashed to rubble by the giants, who now glared angrily at each other. The Phoenix Guard prepared for incoming charges by taking position in the terrain. The Noble on Phoenix charged the Beastmaster, but was clearly outmatched and died quickly. Ouch. Flamespire Phoenix, clearly not expecting this outcome, was left exposed and looked to be its next victim. Finally, 5 heroic archers shot down the Dark Sorceress, who after a flee move caused by the destroyed Dark Shards in the previous turn, had ended up close enough to be targeted. Whoopsie. Turn 3, Dark Elves and High Elves. A giant charged my Phoenix Guard, but they cut him down in 2 rounds of combat with only minimal casualties. His dice rolls were pretty poor. The Beastmaster fought the Flamespire Phoenix, but again the dice were cold, and the fight dragged on. In my turn, Harg and Barg joined in, and together with the Phoenix inflicted 4 wounds on the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster managed to kill the Flamespire Phoenix, but I finally rolled my 6 up for rebirth, and the Phoenix came back. Turn 4, Dark Elves. The Dark Elf warriors and Black Guard attempted to charge the Phoenix Guard. Because of terrain and movement penalties, only the warriors made it in, where the assassin jumped out to try and murder my Loremaster. However, the attempt failed, and the Loremaster killed the assassin swiftly. The warriors lost the combat and fled. Harg and Barg survived the Beastmaster's attacks, crushed him in return, and turned towards the center. Turn 5, High Elf. A true coup de grace turn for the High Elves. The Silver Helms charged the fleeing warriors, wiping them out. The Phoenix Guard, together with the giant, won their combat against the Black Guard, who fled and were run down. And with that, the battle came to an end, sealed with a handshake. Settled, the Kindred War has been fought, and the High Elves emerged on top. It was an amazing game with a lot of very funny moments, and my opponent and me just had a great laugh. I mean, that's really what this game is about to me, you know? However, with another victory in the bag, that finishes the day and makes the Phoenix Guard go 2-1, which really I couldn't have asked for more. What's left to do now is wait for the day's results and maybe see if we snag a prize or 2. Not bad. The results came in and we managed to land ourselves on the 5th spot. Not a podium placement, but still a very good showing in my book. We can return to Elf 1 with our heads held high. All in all, I'm proud of how my army looked on the table, and I really just enjoyed all 3 games, including the opponents. Thank you very much, by the way. And managed to be nominated for Best Painted Army. So, hey, though I didn't actually win the award, I mean, I'm still happy to be nominated. Always an honor. The actual prize, though, went to a stunning Wood Elves army, which also won the tournament, so super props to them. Finally wraps up the Road to Bloodstorm series. It's been a roller coaster ride. I'll be honest, it left me a little winded, but it was worth every second. Thanks to everyone who's been following me, and be sure to look out for my next videos. I'll be focusing on helping new players into the game, so even more people can enjoy this beautiful game, the hobby, and its community. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time on Hammer Time!